Hello, it's Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot, and today I'm here to do a VR to Renee at Meadowlark Mystic for hashtag rainbow decks. So these are the decks that correspond to each color of the rainbow. So this was a really fun tag, so I just wanted to jump in and share my Roy G. Biv decks. And I am doing it a little bit different because I have actually one tarot and one oracle for each. I tried really hard to keep it to just a few decks, but I really wanted to incorporate oracle as well. However, I did just go with my initial gut reaction to color. So this is like my first choice on each of them. So I didn't really give it a whole lot of thought. So it's going to be kind of fun to see what I pulled together. So starting off for red, we have the Santa Muerta Tarot. This could be more due to the box color than anything else, but there is quite a bit of really wonderful red color in this deck. And I really love these images. Actually, this deck is kind of a good one to start off with because it actually kind of encompasses all the colors because the suits are color coordinated, which is really fun. So all the wands are red, but we do get a lot of red in the majors too, which is a lot of fun. And I just really enjoy this deck. There's another red card. Beautiful red card. Another wonderful red card. So for me, this one was, I pulled it out of red because when I thought of the color red, this was the first deck that I thought of, really. I also thought of the Gypsy Palace, which is what Renee showed, but this was the first one that actually popped into my mind, which is kind of funny. I would have thought that it would have been the Gypsy Palace, but I think because this one is actually sitting on my shelf in its pretty red box, I think that's probably why it popped into my mind first. So my oracle I picked for red is the Tao Oracle. And again, this is probably more because of these beautiful red backs than it is because of the color in the card. However, there are some red cards in the deck. We definitely get a pop of red in that emblem up top. Watch me not be able to find. I mean, there's some kind of more yellow red, but the artwork in this deck is really beautiful. There's beautiful red. I love that one. It's one of my favorite cards. When I thought of the oracle that really popped red to me, it was the Tao Oracle. And again, it's probably because of these gorgeous backs, but that was just the one that came to mind, so that's the one I'm going with. So for orange, the first tarot deck that came to mind, which also happens to be the deck I'm working with in August, is the Tarot de St. Croix. And this one I think is probably pretty obvious why orange comes to mind with this deck, because it is trimmed in orange borders all the way around. And orange definitely features in this deck too. It's definitely a kind of a primary color deck, which I really like. But we definitely see those beautiful pops of oranges throughout the deck. And yeah, this is one of my favorites. It's probably why I'm working with it this month. But really, when it comes to orange, I mean, this one is just, yeah. This to me just speaks of everything of the color orange. And I'm sure it's because the cards are orange in terms of the borders. The boxes is beautiful orange. And so that is just really the deck that just sprang to mind. So for oracle for my orange, I picked the Shamanic Medicine Oracle, and I'm sure it's probably again because these backs, like, they are just this beautiful kind of burnt orange color. But there's also a lot of really wonderful kind of sunset, earthy, warm orange colors in this deck. This deck is just one of my favorites. Love that card. Does have a bunch of pops of red as well and some green. Like all of these decks, right, could probably be in any of these categories. But to me, this deck, just orange, just really comes to mind for me when it comes to colors for this deck. And look at that beautiful Vision Quest card with that wonderful sun. So that is my oracle for orange, and that is the Shamanic Medicine Oracle. So for yellow, the first deck that popped into mind was the Incidental Tarot, and again, I'm sure because of the border, like this deck, right, it just screams yellow to me. There's, you know, a bit of yellow in it as well, but it's really just these beautiful borders that really bring that yellow tone to this deck for me. I really love the imagery on this deck. Funny thing is the back is actually orange, so this is kind of a nice little bridge between the orange and the yellow, but for me, this is the deck that immediately comes to mind when I think of the color yellow. So for my yellow oracle, the deck that immediately popped into mind is one of my favorites, the Botanical Inspirations Oracle, and I'm sure it's because it has these kind of like antique yellowed parchment paper looking backgrounds. There is quite a bit of pops of yellow in this deck, some really beautiful yellow flowers. But this deck, I think, because of the background, just really spoke yellow to me. And this is, again, one of my favorite decks. So that's the Oracle that really spoke yellow to me. It's kind of that soft antique-y yellow, which I really love. So when it comes to green, there are quite a few decks that I could have chosen from. But the first one that popped into mind was the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. The second one to immediately pop into mind after that was the Green Witch Tarot. But I decided just to do one tarot and one oracle for each color. But as you can see here, like this deck is just full of green goodness. I really love the artwork in this deck. It's very earthy, very rich, and definitely has a very sort of green nature vibe to it, which I just really like. This is one of those decks that I like even just flipping through it just to look at the images. So the Oracle deck that I chose for green is the Messenger Oracle, and despite the fact that the box is very, very yellow, the deck itself is very green. And again, this is one of those that it might be partially because the backs are green and the fronts are green, or really the borders are green. But there is quite a bit of green in this deck as well. It's just some lovely, like, oh, look at her, isn't she beautiful? Lots of lovely touches of green in this deck. And again, it's another one that feels kind of very earthy to me, and that's kind of the connection that I make with the color green. So I think it's just beautiful. So I haven't actually gotten a chance to work with it yet, but that one I am excited to work with. So blue for me was a no-brainer. The first deck that came to mind is my Star Tarot, and this is of course my first edition, because while I have the second edition as well, and I've done videos on it on my channel, I'm just attached to this one, and this is the one that I keep turning to. But look at all those blue colors. Beautiful. I love this deck. It's one of my favorites. I use it all the time. I just, yeah, kind of attached to this one. To me, this, like, yeah, blue, this deck to me just speaks blue energy. Even though I tend to think of blue as like in terms of like water, and this to me is definitely more of like a cosmic deck. I feel like it's more like otherworldly than it is water-based, but it just has so many wonderful blue colors in it that I just feel that was my blue choice, and the back is blue, so that's just kind of perfect. And the bag is blue. So for my blue oracle, I chose Whispers of the Ocean Oracle, and this one again was kind of like a no-brainer deck. It's very much an ocean deck, so we have a lot of blue color in terms of the cards as well. I mean, look at that one. That's just very blue. I love this deck. I don't think I've spoken much about this deck on my channel, but I do quite love it, and I use it quite a lot. I need to like do a full-on review of it, but has a lot of wonderful colors. I love this card. I think that might be my favorite in the deck. Again, this is another one that has a lot of the same kind of greens and purples as well, but you can definitely tell that blue is a primary color. That's my other favorite card. So yeah, another gorgeous blue deck. So that one is my choice for blue oracle. So our last color is purple, and for my purple deck I chose my Crystal Visions for my purple tarot. Now this deck does have a lot of the other colors in it because all of the suits are color coded, so we have lots of greens and reds and blues as well, but there is a lot of purple in this deck as well because the majors are very purple. And this is a deck that I have heavily modified. Let's see if we can find some purple ones. Which probably isn't going to show up on camera because I don't have the right lighting for that today, but I've actually hand painted over the top with pearlescent ink this entire deck. which was such a fun project. Really time consuming, but super fun. And I spoke about this deck in my deck mod fails video because it does have some issues. It was the first deck I ever modified, so it has some issues. But it's totally fixable, and it's on my list to fix. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. To me, this just totally speaks of purple, and it just has a very purple energy to it. So this was the first one that came to mind for purple decks. And finally, for my purple oracle, I'm gonna kind of cheat here because this is actually 2 oracle decks in one. This is my Blue Messiah reading cards and my cosmic reading cards all mixed together in one. And it does have, again, like all the rest of them, it has a lot of different colors in it, but this has a lot of those really beautiful deep purples that I really love. And I thought about this one in terms of blue too, but because as you can see, there's a lot of blue in this deck as well, but there's also a lot of wonderful purple. I see this deck, but again, this is 2 decks combined into one. I think of it as just one deck because that's the way I use it. You can tell by the back here. Let's see the backs. There's 2 different backs, but beautiful purple colors in this deck. So I hope you enjoyed this look at my rainbow decks. I want to thank Renee from Meadowlark Mystic for creating this fun tag for us. If you haven't checked out her video, I will leave it linked in the description box below. Thank you for joining me today. You will find links for the decks featured here in the description box below. I hope you enjoyed this video and will join me again soon for more creative tarot for an inspired life.